Strong Black Supercomings. I think this is part 4. I forget the name of the playlist, but if you want to watch all the videos in the playlist, go to the playlist called Wives, Marriage, Family, something like that. Anyways, we're talking in the last video about how it was all a lie about men being physically abusive, verbally abusive, cheating, abandoning families, and all this toxic. It's actually the other way around. But you wouldn't know it because the only thing on the TV you see with news or movies, they always report the man being beaten. They never report it the other way around. But if you look at the data, woo, you're like, oh my God, it is overwhelmingly women suck. Okay. They cheat, they abandon, they physically and verbally abuse. Everything about they're toxic. They're just horrible people in relative to everything that we thought about men is a lie. Everything. Okay? And all you have to do is look into the data. You'll be like, oh my God, women are horrible. But let me see here. So we find out that it's all lies, like the cheating, okay, or the abandoning, okay. When you poll, they do polls, right, of kids and adults and whatever, and they find out, okay, that when it comes to dating, 95% of the time, 95% of the time, okay, women break up with men. Only 5% of the breakups when it comes to dating are by the men. 95%. That's like saying 100% you're at 95. You know the 5% of the guys that broke up with the women, obviously those women were totally, totally crazy beyond even the other crazy women, you know what I mean? So, and who initiates divorces? 80% of the time, women initiate divorces. In reverse marriages where the boss babe is the woman and the guy stays at home, at 90%. So 80 to 90% of the time, the woman asks for a divorce, and it's always, and not always, but 95% of those are no fault. So all the divorces are basically the women getting up and saying, no one's at fault. He was a great guy. Did everything he was supposed to do. I'm not feeling it. Feeling like I could take half his money, half his house, and then I don't have to listen to him anymore. Like I can go screw other guy. Like, you think like she's chained up in the basement and she's divorcing because she needs freedom. But the freedom they're talking about is like, I want to do what I want to do, man. I want to go out and be a slut. I want to go out to the bar 5 days a week and party on drugs and alcohol, and you know what I mean? It's like, that's the freedom they're missing out on it. They're being oppressed from. You're oppressing me, not letting me be a drug addict and a whore. I'm so oppressed, so I need to just get out of this marriage. It's like, it's insane. Men don't leave under any circumstances almost. And I don't want to hear about your personal reason, I know a bunch of men have left. Yeah, okay, whatever. Okay, using your own personal experience and extrapolating those facts to the entire world or the entire country is insane. Okay, just because if I had a mother who was murdered by my dad with an axe, I can't go around and say everyone has been murdered. Had their dad murder their wife by an axe. Okay, even though it happened in my life, in my family. I have the brains enough to say that I can't interpolate that or extrapolate to the entire country. Just because it happened in my life or I know people around me that it happened to, that doesn't mean, like 90% of the people I know are this way. Well, who cares if 10% of the country, isn't is the opposite, whatever, you know what I mean? You can't just say what happened in your personal life means anything. It's meaningless. Because I could say, well, my dad murdered my mother with an axe. So obviously everyone had their dad murdered. No, that isn't the way it works. Now I lost my train of thought of what I was talking about. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just move on, okay? We're going to start out with a little history lesson about men and women, right? Going back to the caveman days, olden days, you know what I mean? Women were always more valuable, okay? Women have always been, and we're going to talk about biology here too, on why women and men do what they do and why they want what they want. Because it's all about nature and instinct. It's all about biology. We have been led down this dumbass idea that love and compatibility have anything to do with anything. They have nothing to do with anything. I mean, sure, you have to have some love and have some compatibility, but that doesn't determine anything on how long your marriage is going to last. There's only one main thing, and there's other things too, but the main thing is a woman wants to find a leader that's dominant, and a man wants to find a submissive who's a follower. Following submissive. That's biology, and then your thing will last forever. Your marriage will be forever. So anyways, women have always been more valuable. They've always been more privileged, and they're more privileged today. That's a lie that they've been oppressed and they have been this and that and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, sure, there are some things that they weren't allowed to do, that they didn't get privilege with. But there's a bunch of stuff the men, aren't privileged with. You know what I mean? Like a man has to go to a war and die. Man, if there's a fire and you're inside the burning building and there's a woman there too, guess what? They're going to get the woman out first and you're going to die probably in the flames. If there's a boat goes down and there's so many canoes for, life canoes or whatever, lifeboats, yeah, the man's going to all die and the women are all going to be saved, you know what I mean? Yeah, there's so many privileges that a woman has, it's ridiculous. And then when they lose one privilege or don't have one privilege, they act like, compared to women, like they have a million more privileges than men. But over here, yeah. Women have a million more privileges, but over here there's one privilege we don't have that men have. Oh, it's oppression. Oh, it's oppression. Oh my God. It's like, it's crazy. It's insane. All right. But they have, and the reason why they have always been, more valuable, and first I'm going to give you a couple privileges that they've always had. Dying, getting food, they've never had to do that. They don't, they didn't go out and get the bear and kill the lion or whatever and get the food that way. No. They never had to do that. Never have to die in a war. Never have to die in the war. Never have to die getting food. Never have to die protecting the family. You know what I mean? Against bears or other humans. Fires and ships. I just said that one. If ship is going down, the men are going to die. Women all safe. Same in fires and a bunch of other stuff. Somebody walks into McDonald's and starts shooting. What? The guy jumps on the woman, protects her, and takes the bullet and dies. They've always had this privilege. And I could go on and on and on and on how much privilege they have, even back in the olden days when they act like they didn't. And what's funny is before like 1800s or whatever, women, and even in the 1800s, most women knew that they were privileged. They lived a privileged life. They had so much privilege it was unreal. And they understood it, and they were grateful about it. Today they have even more privilege than they had back then, and they act like they're oppressed. But the whole thing is why do they get all these privileges? Obviously, the war one is easy, right? They can't fight in the war; they'll all die, man. You can't have women fighting men; the men will kick their ass. So, whatever country uses just women, they'll lose and they won't be a country anymore. The same with getting food and protecting the family and all this other stuff. They can't do it. Now, the fire and the ships, that's another story. You're jumping in front of bullets. Anyone can jump in front of bullets if you're at McDonald's and start hearing gunfire. And fires, you know what I mean? It has nothing to do with physical strength or ability or whatever. We just do it. Why do we do it then? Why do we let them? If we have to die in wars and getting food and protecting the family, why don't they die in fires and when the ship goes down? You know what I mean? Why you'd think they'd even it out. But no, they don't even it out. There's a reason why though, okay? Because a woman can only have one baby per year. And a man can have 100 million babies per year, okay? You know what I mean? And almost, you know, a lot. And there's only time, you know, you can only have sex so often during the year, right? That's the only thing that limits a man. You know what I mean? So think about it, right? You have a war. If the women all die and you only have a couple women and you have a bunch of dudes, so what? It doesn't matter how many dudes you have left after the war, right? If you have, let's take it down to small numbers. Let's say you got 3 women and 10 guys. Well, you only need one dude to impregnate all 3 of these, right? I mean, he can literally sleep with all 3 of them within a day or two, get them pregnant, and they will be whatever. So having a lot of men doesn't really help when it comes to, you know, replenishing your population after a war, right? Or after a famine, or after anything, right? Big fire that takes out the whole community. You know, you want your women alive. Because what happens is if you have one man, instead of 3 women and 10 guys, reverse it. Now you have 10 women and 3 guys, or even 1 guy, right? Now, these women, this one guy can impregnate all of them, all 10 of them. Then they can have 10 babies. The other way around, you only have 1 baby per year per woman, you know what I mean? So that was why it was imperative. You know what I mean? It's not like a debate. You have to have the women safe behind enemy lines. You know what I mean? Out of the way of any violence or anything. They had to be privileged. They had to get those privileges because there was no other way. You know what I mean? Explain. And you can't. You know, you can't draft women in a war. You lose the war, man. That's all there is to it, man. So let's get into some biology about the women. I'm kind of jumping around here and there because this is going to be like 20 videos or something, this video playlist, because there's just so much information that I know about women and marriage and all this crap. So let's talk first about, we'll move past the history and we'll get back to that, right? But we see why the women are privileged and how they're privileged, right? At least in this, when it comes to life and death, right? The wars, going out and getting killed by a bear because you're getting food you're trying to kill a bear to get him to be the food. You die in the war, protecting your family, fire ships. So let's move on and talk about women, just women, okay? Why are women selfish? Okay, why are they selfish? And everyone knows that women are selfish, but we always kind of say, well, that isn't right to say. It's not really, you know, it's not cool, man. It sounds like racism. It sounds like you're just deeming them as selfish because they're a female gender and there's no other reason than they're different. And since they're different, we're better. And, you know, it just sounds like it's not racism. They are selfish, okay? They're selfish as heck, okay? But there's a reason, right? And actually, this is part of the history. I want you, they're weak as hell physically, right? And just like a poor person who cannot make money, right? He isn't going to share, right? He's not going to share his money. It's not that the poor person is selfish, you know what I mean? It's just a biological mechanism. It's just biology of survival. You know what I mean? The poor person knows, hey, I'm poor. I can't afford to lose nothing. I guess I can't believe that went so fast. Anyways, just have a pasta fairy day, and we'll see you on part 4.